nice. We are excited to have you on our YouTube channel once again. If today is the very first time you are coming to our page, we thank you so much and we want you to subscribe to our channel, Speak English with Eric. We thank you so much for liking our previous videos. In fact, the feedback is amazing, and so we are hoping to give you more and more of these exciting and educative lessons. Today we want to delve deeper into the language, about the rudiments of the language. There are some phrases and words that we've been using in the past which may be wrong, but for some reasons, because we have been using them repeatedly, it's become a part of us, and sometimes we don't even bother to find out whether these are the correct versions or the appropriate versions of these phrases and words that we use. So today we want to give you 10 phrases or 10 words that we've been using inappropriately in the past, and we would be giving you the appropriate versions with some examples, and then we invite you also to try at home or wherever you are watching us from your own examples so that you'll be able to remember them. It's always advisable to practice because practice makes perfect, and so we have 10 phrases or 10 expressions that we've been using inappropriately that today we want to delve deeper into. So let's get right into this. What's common on our social media space is the use of on and off as verbs. So for example, it is common to hear on the light for me, on the AC for me, on the rush for me, right? But these are inappropriate usage of the prepositions. On and off are prepositions, and therefore in these contexts they shouldn't be used as verbs. So instead of saying on the light for me, you can simply say turn on the light for me, or switch on the light for me, turn off the light for me, or switch off the light for me. It is inappropriate to say on the light for me or on the AC for me. It is one of the pet peeves of the language that most people talk about, and so from today just say that I'm not going to use that again. No on the light for me again. It is switch on the light or turn on the light. Okay, so the second point, which has eluded most of us, many people, is point of call. So when you get to a place and the first person or the first place that you visit, especially on a trip, that place is a port of call, not a point of call. A port of call. For example, when we go to the school, the headmaster's office was our first port of call. The catchword here is port, P-O-R-T, not point, P-O-I-N-T. So the first port of call on our visit was the chief's palace, right? When we encounter a difficulty, his office is our first port of call. Port of call, not point of call. Are you guilty of this? Have you said that in the past? Yes, it's common, so don't feel you are the only one. Right. The third phrase or expression that we've been using inappropriately in the past also is in the known or in the knowing. Sometimes we say in the knowing or in the know. We often say this when we think somebody has some information or someone is privy to some piece of information that other people may not have. And so Kofi is in the know of what is happening recently, right? So the appropriate phrase is in the know, not in the known or in the knowing. It is in the know. Know is spelled as K-N-O-W. K-N-O-W. So Kofi is in the know of what is happening. I guess by now you may be laughing because these are common errors that we make that sometimes we don't even know we are making these errors. And so that's why we are here for you. Speak English with Eric. If you haven't subscribed yet, this is the appropriate time for you to subscribe. And then we want to hear from you in the comment section. If you have any examples or any questions to ask, please send them in the comment section. We'll be glad to hear from you. Now, the point of all these supposed correction that we are making is not to be fixated on grammatical correctness or correctness of the language per se, but we are interested in communicative intelligibility. The fact that if you'll be able to understand each other or one another when we communicate, a part of it depends on being able to use the appropriate words at the appropriate times. And so if you are able to use the appropriate words at the appropriate times, it enhances the effectiveness of the communication, right? And so we are not doing these corrections just to gain some kind of capital over who knows the correct English and who doesn't know. And so I felt I should make that distinction clear about our purpose here. For us to enhance our communication with people, we need to be able to choose appropriate words. And so yeah, we get to the fourth expression or phrase which we have been using inappropriately in the past. So the fourth one is for the time being. The confusion here is about how to spell the being. Some people often use being as B-E-E-N, but that is not the appropriate word in that phrase. It's supposed to be for the time being, B-E-I-N-G, for the time being. This means at the moment or for now, right? So we can use my laptop for the time being. For the time being, B-E-I-N-G. It is not for the time being, right? I hope you get the distinction clear. The same confusion is in the phrase come into being, which means to come into existence or to create something, right? So that being is also spelled as B-E-I-G. So come into being, to come into being, right? So to come into existence, right? So that's the fourth one. Now we get to the fifth one, which is also very prevalent in discourses, especially when we are embarking on school competitions and whatnot. And so it is inter-schools. We often hear inter-schools competition, inter-universities competition, inter-department. These are inappropriate uses of these noun phrases. The prefix inter actually means that there is involvement of two or more people, right? And so the notion of plurality is already embedded in the prefix inter. So inter means between two or more people, right? And so if we are having a competition among several schools, it is inter-school. Because the notion of plurality is already embedded in the prefix inter, the noun that follows should be in the singular form, not the plural form. So you would rather say inter-school competition, inter-department competition, inter-university games, not inter-universities games, right? The moment you use inter, you are implying that you are talking about involvement of two or more groups, and therefore the noun that follows the inter should always be in the singular form. Okay, now we move to the fifth one, which is also very common and funny at the same time. Offhand. Who hasn't used that before? Raise your hand. If you haven't used offhand before, then it's quite strange because it's one of the common errors that we often make. And so we often say offhand when we mean somebody is able to say something without referring to some kind of material. So the person is able to say it by rote without making any references to any document. So he can recite the figures or the poem offhand. That's what we often say. But the appropriate word there is offhand. Offhand, not offhead. You won't find offhead in any authorized or any authoritative dictionary, right? The appropriate word is offhand. Offhand, which means that to be able to do something without previous thought or without any reference to any material. Another synonymous idiom is by rote or by memory, right? To be able to say something from memory without making any references to any document. So for example, Kwame can recite the first 20 elements offhand, which means that he can recite them without making references to any document, right? So we move to the sixth phrase or expression which we have been using inappropriately. Now this one is a little bit controversial. It's got to do with light out and power outage. Light out and power outage. In standard English or in the language which is mostly accepted by native speakers, when we say lights out, is a specified time where, especially in boarding houses or in places where there is some kind of control and discipline, the members or the students there are expected to sleep by a certain time, right? So let's say by 10 p.m. everybody is supposed to sleep. So during the lights out, the lights in the building or in the rooms are intentionally turned off, right? So that everybody can go to bed. At this time, it doesn't mean there is no power, because people can charge their phones, their laptops, people can use other gadgets, but the lights have been turned off, which means that there is no power failure or power loss, right? So that is light out, a specified time where the lights in a certain building in a controlled environment is switched off so that the members can sleep or do something else, right? Now we come to power outage. In this case, there is a failure of power. There is interruption in the supply of power to a building or to a location. And so you wouldn't be able to charge a phone or use any gadget unless these are on batteries, right? And so lights out refer to a specified time where lights are intentionally shut or turned off for students to sleep. But power outage is when there is interruption of power or a power loss or power failure. So for example, students who were caught talking during light out were punished. Example 2, there have been frequent power outages in our neighborhood recently, right? So that's a distinction between light out and power outage. So the next time your power is cut or interrupted, you would need to say there is power outage instead of lights out or light off. I hope that makes some kind of sense, right? So let's hear from you in the comment section. What do you have? Any questions, any thoughts, any concerns? Just send them to the comment section, and we'll be glad to hear from you and to answer if need be, right? The eighth phrase or expression which we have been using inappropriately in the past is try and error. Try and error. So whenever we say this is a try and error, we mean that we are trying possible solutions to a problem and learning from our mistakes so that we are able to finally make the way or make the solution which answers our problem or which solves the problem. That process is a trial and error, not try and error. The catchword here is trial, T-R-I-A-L, trial. So trial and error, not try and error. Try as in T-R-Y. No, that's not the appropriate word in this context. It is trial and error. So to get to the solution, we need to do a lot of trial and error. Trial and error. Alright. Then the ninth one is the difference between adopted and adoptive. Adopted as in ADOPTED, adopted, and then adoptive, ADOPTIVE, adoptive. So here's the difference. Now, if a child is adopted, it means a child is taken from wherever. It could be an orphanage, or it could be from any place, but the person is legally taken into a family to be taken care of as a child of that family. So that child is an adopted child. An adopted child, right? The family or the parents who adopt this child is an adoptive family. Adoptive family. The parents are not adopted. It is the child who is adopted. So you would rather say the adoptive parents are great. The adopted child is awesome. So I hope you get the difference. If the person is adopted, the person is the one being taken into the family. And then if someone is adoptive, it means that you relate to the person but through adoption. So the parents who are adopting the child are adoptive parents. They are not adopted parents. So let's get the difference so that we would enhance our communication wherever we use these expressions. Right. Then to our very last one for today, if we really want more examples, we can have a part 2 of this video, because there are lots and lots of expressions and phrases which we have been using inappropriately in the past. But the 10th one is feedbacks. Feedbacks, right? So feedback is an uncountable noun, so it exists only in the singular form. There is no plural form as feedbacks. No matter the number of responses you get from people or opinions you get from people, it is still feedback, not feedbacks. Another example is homework. Homework is also an uncountable noun, and so we don't have homeworks, right? No matter the number of subjects that you have to do as homework, it is still homework, not homeworks. Another example is handiwork, right? It is also an uncountable noun, and so there is no handiworks. It is handiwork. All right. So we hope you enjoy these phrases that we have often been using inappropriately. Let's hear from you what you think. If you have any questions, any concerns, any feedback, we'll be glad to hear from you. We will come your way with other educative lessons on this channel, Speak English with Eric. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, we would want you to subscribe, because we have very entertaining and educative lessons that will help you improve upon your language. And so share this video so that other people can also have access to these wholesome content. And so until we come your way another time, take care and bye.